My guest at this time is the co-founder of Network and was set to host a huge independent pro wrestling event on December 5th called Prochella. It's Jamie Ivey. Jamie, thank you very much for taking the time to chat with me today.
Thank you so much for having me, man. This has been, I've been looking forward to this interview. Ryan spoke very highly of you, so I'm glad to be here. Thank you for giving me the time.
A lot of pressure. Ryan's too busy talking to Triple H and Roman Reigns these days.
Yeah, and interviewing Kane.
I guess we're all just doing the best we can. We're not all
absolutely.
We don't all got that satin access. Jamie, yeah, man, excited to finally chat with you as well. Very familiar with you. I was happy and surprised to find out you were going to be doing this Prochella event. But before we kind of get to that, you have lived a very eclectic life, I believe would be a nice way to say this. For the fans out there that are listening and are like, who is this guy, Jamie? 10,000 foot view. You want to give us an idea of who you are and what your background and everything is?
Sure. I come from a background in the music business. My father was very, very involved, so to speak, in music and in terms of hip hop and all that stuff. He helped create Beats by Dre and eventually what became Apple Music on iTunes. And so I came from the music background. Again, 10,000 feet. Through the music business, I became a touring festival DJ. I did a lot of raves and EDM festivals and stuff like that. After that, wrestling was always like a deep passion of mine. Even in that stuff, I would in a lot of my interviews when I would be interviewed by music blogs and stuff like that, I would do an entire promo as The Rock and not even tell them. I would just do it, and a lot of these guys had no idea what the hell I was talking about. But each interview I would try to do I would start an interview, they would ask me how do you feel performing on this festival? Then I would be just how The Rock would you hear the people say Rocky, and then I'd be like, no, what the fuck am I doing? But anyway, I started doing that, and then like I said, wrestling was always the main passion, and I just didn't really back in 2009, 2010, it wasn't as easy to get into the wrestling business as it is now. The level of entry was way higher. We didn't have the network. We didn't have a lot of the indie companies that we do now. PWG was, getting legs, but not there yet. And so I really didn't know how to do it. And I DJ'd I was lucky. Oh, did I cut out?
No, you're right here. We're seeing.
Okay, cool. I just a random window just opened. So I was through my DJing, I was able to get a gig and actually DJ a SummerSlam pre-party.
Oh, cool.
Back in 2012 or 13 or something like that, maybe even longer.
Okay.
And through that, I was able to meet Triple H.
All right.
And just in passing, and I just expressed how much I loved the business and how much I wanted to be a part of it. And he gave me a shot and gave me a job at behind the scenes production for Monday Night Raw and SmackDown. Yeah, I was there for a little bit. And that's
pretty cool even in itself right there. Because Hunter was, this was a little before NXT then, I'm guessing, at that point.
It was, and the first time I had a meeting with Hunter, right before I got hired, was actually at the first real big NXT, where it was I think the main event was Sami Zayn versus Neville.
That sounds right.
Yeah, and they had that famous Charlotte Flair and Natty match where Bret Hart was in the corner and Ric Flair was in the corner as well. So that was a really fun experience.
Oh.
And then I was there for a year. Didn't really like the corporate structure there. I didn't really vibe with a lot of the higher ups, and that's it.
What was the vibe? You just, are you just, because I work from my house, I've worked from home even before the pandemic. I hate being in offices and stuff. Was it just having to be in that space and not kind of getting to control your destiny and your creativity day to day that was holding you down?
A little bit of that. And also it was a lifestyle that I wasn't really privy to before. A lot of my jobs that I had before this, my first job that I ever had was I was an intern for Pauly Shore. I'd never done a desk job before.
Oh, the Weasel.
The Weasel.
Dude, I showed my girlfriend Biodome the other day for the first time, and she hated it. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Wow. You may need to reconsider that one, my friend.
I have no. She's from California. She's from like the Bay Area. I have no idea how she's never seen Encino Man.
Doesn't it take place in? I mean, yeah, Encino Man, of course. It doesn't. The Biodome take place in? Oh, actually, I think it takes place in Arizona.
It does. They're out in the desert.
Yeah, never mind about that. But anyway, it wasn't a culture that I was really in tune with, or even ever have been a part of. And it's also that lifestyle, man. Like, granted, I wasn't in the ring and I wasn't getting beat up every week, but even from a production standpoint, man, you're home maybe 2 days out of the week, if that, and the rest of it, you're on the road. And if for a lot of people, that's cool and everything, but I have deep roots in a lot of places, and I'm a very family oriented person. And while that's great for a lot of people, and I respect the hell, I have a lot of friends in that company still that I think like that they're doing incredible things. Cool. But it's, it just wasn't for me. And again, as you said, you don't really get the opportunity to control your own destiny in that company. It's kind of like everybody says, it's a show for one person, and that is the case. And and it's only gotten more so since I've left. And
man, it's wild to hear you be like, because like the music industry in and out, and like interning for Pauly Shore, you know the comedy beat too. It's a grind, man.
It really is.
For you to say like the pro wrestling grind, that is harder than any grind I've seen. That's a real test. That's a real statement right there. I feel like
absolutely. I mean, the fact that again, I came from a touring lifestyle before. When I was a festival DJ, and we had to do like maybe 1 or 2 shows and like go into like 2 or 3 in the morning.
Yeah,
and that was nowhere near as arduous as the WWE tour schedule. And I didn't even have to do house shows.
Oh, man, dude, yeah, that's wild. All right, well, hey, take a step back here too. Again, like you had so many creative influences around you. When did you become a wrestling fan? When did this come up? Was your dad a fan? Like, how did this happen?
My dad was a fan in passing. So the way I became a wrestling fan, the way I was first exposed to professional wrestling was, so my family's been a long-term sponsor and involved in the Special Olympics since the very beginning, way back when the Shrivers started it.
Awesome.
And we would go every year just to show support to the athletes and stuff every time they had the games and whatnot. And people would try to bring in things to make it more, because it's not the Olympics, it's the Special Olympics. And at the time it wasn't treated as prominently, or as Hollywood is focused on it as much as the regular Olympics. So whereas the regular Olympics would get like Muhammad Ali or like, big names like that, the Special Olympics were getting like birthday party characters, and so all these companies were starting to take notice, and we're like, we can't have that. These guys are just as great as regular athletes, in the Special Olympics. So we need to start giving some more people in there. So my old man brought Mark Wahlberg at the time when he was a rapper. And so we went, so it was me, my old man, my dad, and my mom, and Marky Mark. Not Mark Wahlberg yet, Marky Mark.
Okay.
And
so John Cena pre-John. Okay, got it. Old John.
Yeah, very much so. Yes.
Got it.
Also from Boston. So we're in the green room. I had to have been like 3 or 4 at the time. You're in the green room, and in walks Hulk Hogan. And Hulk Hogan was full Hulk Hogan, red and yellow. Just is like, it's like Batman walks in, it's like like in the full costume. And I had no idea what wrestling was. And I asked my dad, who is that? Because Hulk Hogan walks in, you're like, this is clearly somebody out of the unknown. And I was sitting next to Mark fucking Wahlberg at the time, so that and he told me, oh, that's Hulk Hogan. And I said, who's Hulk Hogan? And he told me, he was like, oh, well, I'll show you. And we go back home. He's got some tapes, shows me a couple matches. And the rest is history after that, as they say.
So you were around a lot of musicians that like kind of had a hand in the Attitude Era. Like,
oh yeah. So it's funny that you mentioned that. During a period of time, my dad's label actually had a licensing deal with the WWE, and we licensed a lot of the music. Like, for instance, when Edge did Never Gonna Stop by Rob Zombie, we Interscope licensed that. When Beautiful People was the theme song for SmackDown, we licensed that as well. And we did a lot. Rollin' for the Undertaker.
I was gonna say, like you're quasi helpful in the most popular wrestling song maybe ever. Roll It.
I
Is
don't want
like,
to take that much credit, but like, yeah, I was there for a lot of that as well. You know, my old man would bring me into like consult because he didn't really know much about the current state of the Attitude Era and stuff. He knew the old school stuff. So like, is this Edge guy cool? Like the Undertaker, I thought he was dead. He's riding a motorcycle now. Like he's, and you know, there's also that whole thing where Paul Heyman revealed in an interview. Of course, I'm going to leave it to him to reveal because we didn't say much until he talked about it. That Interscope was one of the lists of people who was interested in buying ECW before it went out of business.
really? Wow.
Yeah.
And so you knew that was happening, I'm sure, around that.
Yeah.
Like it was
Yeah. I met Paul Heyman the first time. God, I had to have been 15, 16 years old back when ECW was starting to, like right after the TNN deal went through and they were, you know, needing money, you know, and my old man was one of the people interested. It didn't end up happening because, you know, it just didn't seem like it was going to work out. And WWE had a better offer.
Yeah. Wow. That's crazy. You could be Tony Khan right now.
I would like to be. Yeah. Tony is someone that I would love to aspire to be in terms of having your cake and eating it too. So
okay, because so like with the artists and stuff, was there any artists you like had a pro wrestling bond with? Was there like somebody that you were like, this is who I talk wrestling with that like is cool?
I became good friends with Fred Durst throughout those years. We're still good friends today.
Roland himself. All right,
Mr. Roland himself, a redneck motherfucker from Jacksonville, as he calls himself. I don't know if you curse on this interview.
You can say whatever you want, Jamie. Totally fine. Totally fine.
This interview. So through that, we became really good friends. We hung out a lot. Fred's a great guy. I wish I was really, really hoping there was that rumor that at last year's, not the most recent WrestleMania, but the year before that, there was the rumor that Taker was going to have one more American Badass appearance and that Limp would have played him or Kid Rock would have played him to the ring. I was hoping that was going to happen. It didn't. But he was the one I really hung out with. Snoop, I'm not as close with Fred as I am, but with Snoop. But Snoop is a family friend as well. He's heavily involved in the wrestling scene, as you know.
Sure. Oh, sure. You know. He was at the Tyson Jones Jr. thing. He's gotten all kinds of commentator of the year. People are saying Snoop.
Yeah, he made the show. He's a Snoop, and I think people are starting to like. It only took them 30 years or something, or 25, however long it's been since Doggy Style came out.
Yeah.
People are starting to realize now that like he's that guy. He could do it. He could do it all. I mean, there was that famous YouTube video of him where he redubbed Planet Earth, and, like the docuseries, and it's so funny. It's so funny just hearing him just because he's got a great outlook on life. How could you not want to just spend hours just listening to probably one of the most zen, happy people on the planet?
You know, I was just making a gin and juice reference about 2 hours ago.
See, there you go.
Yeah, my buddy EJ Cameron. Much love, EJ. You just got that reference. So
fortuitous circumstances be the.
What about Eminem? He seems like a pro wrestler. He seems like a character that is like cut out for the pro wrestling scene.
Eminem is Eminem's a funny guy. Eminem is first off incredibly gifted, of course, incredibly talented, but much more of a nerd than a lot of people would think. That he first off loves comics, loves comic books, reads them all the time. And if you listen to a lot of his songs, he has a lot of references in there as well. And you know, he does watch. He's not current in the product at all. They have licensed him a lot, like for the. I remember when I was with the company. There was a package that was made for the Daniel Bryan. I mean the John Cena Bray Wyatt match at WrestleMania 30, 29. I don't remember which one it was.
Yeah. Oh, WrestleMania.
Yeah, one of the WrestleManias, and it was to an Eminem song, and so he's familiar with it, but he's not as deep. And he's also one of the more quiet people that you'll ever meet in a one-on-one thing. Like that's why he doesn't do a lot of interviews, is because he's very soft. Like when you meet him, you're expecting Hockey Mask Chainsaw Guy, and he's not. He's
Flapjack from Retribution. That's exactly what I'm expecting. Yeah,
exactly. But no, he's not. He's very reserved, very quiet, very shy is a word I would use, which really surprised me the first time I got to speak with him. And but you could tell there's a lot going on behind the eyes. Like there's a lot of thinking and analyzing. And I think the fact that he's sober now really has opened him up to a lot more than just the hip hop. Like he's interested in a lot more things now. I wouldn't be surprised if we see him be in a lot more movies going forward.
Very cool. All right, well, let's jump off of. I could sit here and just go down the list.
Hey, so could I, brother. That was fun.
Let's talk about Prochella here. So now you're here as an adult. You got experience with WWE. You've been on the touring circuit as a DJ. Why did you decide to get? I mean, in the crazy world of pro wrestling promotion, why would you decide, especially now, decide to do an event like Prochella?
Well, I'm actively my dream was always to be a wrestler. That was the dream from the beginning. And as I told you at the time when I was doing music or when I was doing my other jobs, I didn't have a way to do that. I didn't know how to get into a wrestling school. I didn't know like where to go to do these things. And then eventually I did. Now there's schools everywhere now, you know, everybody has a school. And I've been actively training and trying to become a in-ring competitor myself. And I'm an on-screen talent for Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, which is a promotion out here in California. And I used to do some stuff with MLW before I couldn't make the schedule anymore because they're 3-day shoots in Orlando, just in align with my business, with Network, back with my company that I have back out in California. And I'd always dreamed of having a wrestling show, just to put one on, just to see what it's like. I've never done one before. I've been part of many independent shows. I mean, but I've never done it. I've never had the pen. I've never had the book. So I reached out to a friend of mine, Brett Lauderdale at GCW, who, in my opinion, out of any of the other independent promotions, has really been leading the charge in terms of showing by example how these things can be done. Of course, we're in a really, really shitty time right now. We're in a time where I don't think anybody knows fully what this thing is. And we're doing the best we can for people that, I mean, when we say we, I'm saying people who are trying to put on shows. I mean, we're not trying to put on shows by and large because we want to make money. We're not in a situation right now where these shows are going to make a lot of money. Right now, what we're trying to do, at least what I'm trying to do with this show, is get these wrestlers paid. Because right now, like, if you're not signed to a major company, TNA, AEW, WWE, New Japan, you're not doing much right now. And the shows are getting canceled. The shows are getting moved. The shows are getting postponed. And I mean, the WWE guys don't even have insurance. I mean, let alone independent guys, you know, I mean, these guys are paying for at least when WWE guys get injured, they'll pay for the surgery by and large. These guys kind of come out of their own pocket. I mean, I'm not going to name names, but a friend of mine just lost his father to COVID, and another wrestler, a friend of mine lost his father to COVID, and they don't have the money to fly him back to bury him. So the whole purpose of Prochella was to make sure that the West Coast scene was featured, because I really wanted to show that the West Coast scene wasn't relying on one person, because as we all know, the West Coast scene suffered a huge setback with all these, you know, there was the Me Too allegations and whatnot that happened to the unnamed people. And whether they be true or not, the West Coast scene really took a huge hit because we lost a major venue for a lot of West Coast acts to be featured. And I wanted to show that the West Coast isn't just reliant on one entity or one person.
Are you talking about bar wrestling? Or is
yes.
Okay. I just want to be clear for everybody listening right now. Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm trying to be as vague as possible because I'm not trying to.
That's fine. I'm just trying to I'm just wanting everybody listening being like, what is going on? I thought PWG was still around. Okay, got it.
Yeah, PWG's still around, but haven't had any shows recently. And the loss of bar wrestling was huge. A lot of people really, really, really got their shine in bar wrestling, and a lot of people looked at bar wrestling as a bi-weekly or weekly show to really, like, if I'm not booked this week on an indie show in Kansas City or in Jersey, then at least I have bar wrestling that I know that somebody is watching. Because a lot of big names come out of bar wrestling. Jungle Boy, Luchasaurus. I mean, the Bucks, you know, like that. I mean, they didn't come from bar wrestling, but, you know, a lot of them got their shine there.
Right.
And I think, and until another one of those things comes back, and I think they will, I think we got I've been hearing rumblings of a lot of people looking at the same venue or trying to do something similar in the same vein as just giving LA fans a weekly show. And until we get that, because, you know, LA is the most locked down city out of I think all of them in the country.
Yeah.
I was looking to Vegas to do this, and through Brett and GCW, they were helping me. It was going to be, you know how GCW likes to have a lot of block shows. They'll have like Joey's Spring Break, and then Bloodsport right after that.
It was like the collective. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, it's the collective. It was going to be in the vein of that. Like the show was going to be in Las Vegas at the Meet Las Vegas, the name of the venue. And it was going to be outside in the pavilion that they had, because I wanted to make sure that like during the day, when it's a little hotter, I wanted it to be outside. And so spread out, masks required, all the proper COVID regulations. And we came up with the idea of kind of making, I called it Prochella. I got the idea from, I'm not going to take credit for that name. Yuma gave me that name. So I'll give all the credit to Yuma of the Rock Nest Monsters. And because no, it's West Coast, it's Prochella, it's Coachella, it's the West Coast wrestling scene being featured. And a lot of the matches were kind of fun because it was almost like the West Coast versus GCW. I announced a lot of the wrestlers that I had, but I wasn't able to announce any of the matches I had booked yet, because literally the week I was going to announce the matches, we got canceled. I mean, postponed. And I had some great ones, man. I want to talk about some right now. I had like Dickinson versus bad dude Tito, you know, just two big motherfuckers just going at each other. I had Jordan Oliver versus Adrian Quest. You know, Adrian Quest is really coming up in the scenes right now. Heather Monroe versus Alley Cat, which had never happened before, which is crazy to me. And like, that's a dream match of mine. But again, we didn't really have the opportunity to announce it. But, you know, going forward, we're really looking for late winter, maybe early spring for a new date, because, you know, these new lockdowns are going to be at least until January. And then, so that's what we're looking towards, you know, because that's really all it was, just taking really great West Coast talent that just needed a stage, man. They just needed a platform. And I just know people will fall in love with them.
So walk me through, how did you find out about this? Like what was there like an email or a call, or like when did you know that this thing was not going to happen? Like when did the rug get pulled out from you?
So I was working on last Friday. I was working on some, because my business is a retail company. So we had Black Friday coming up. So we were just doing some calls and stuff, and then I was watching the news, and the governor of Nevada basically said, tonight I'm imposing a laundry list of new regulations and stuff. And I was like, and I texted Brett then, I was like, is this going to affect us? And he said it might. And so we were just waiting. And then that night, the governor dropped a lot of Las Vegas regulations, basically no more indoor gatherings. Outdoor gatherings are cut in half. And so like the amount of people you can have in an outdoor gathering is like, the limit is just my talent and my crew. Like that's not even talking fans. And I'm really, really, really happy that Brett is still having the GCW show that he planned on having indoors, but with no fans. It's going to be like a performance center show that WWE's been doing. Obviously, not the Thunderdome, but like
fight stream.
He's getting these guys paid, which I really, really think is cool. And and he's setting up a donation thing, so it's to help out with a lot of these guys who would have been paid. Like for a lot of these guys, we're going to do double duty. That we're going to work that show and my show, and so they're losing out on that money as well. So I'm going to be donating a good amount of the money that was going towards this show will be going towards the GCW fund. And that's the whole, I go back to it again, man, because my business manager who handles my accounts and all this stuff, when I was putting all this money together, she was like, you know, like, you're not going to see a return on this, like at all. You'll break even maybe. And then I said, that's not the point. Nobody's point right now should really be to make a profit, right? In my opinion, right now, everybody's goal who's not signed to a major business, who's not signed to a major promotion, should be to save the independent scene. Like that should be first and foremost before anything, before a t-shirt, before a new Twitch stream, before any of that stuff. It should be whatever you're doing in the wrestling business should be aimed at not only like making your brand last through this COVID, but also the indie promotions that the fans love, that the fans want to keep supporting. Because if we lose those, we're back to where we were back in 2009, 2010, where if you weren't on those 3 companies, you weren't doing shit. And I don't want to see that. We've worked so hard to come to this place that we are now.
Yeah, man. Well, that seems like the perfect out for me, man. You brought it right back to the beginning, right where you started as a wrestling fan. Seems to be like weird, and I hadn't even thought about that, but I think you're right. Because the business, the indie business in particular, was just so booming at the top of this year. I don't think I'd ever seen it hotter. The expectations for 2021 were just so high, and as the months go on, there was this wave where people thought we can do this, and so many promoters like. What happened to you and what happened to Brett with they just get they become gun shy, I guess I should say, and they just less shows get run, less people get work, and by the time we get this vaccine, I wonder who will even be running and creating talent. Because you bring up GCW and you go to GCW, you get over right now, man, you're getting signed.
Yeah, GCW is a great place to be for you want to be getting noticed and stuff.
They're it, right? Like that's largely, I mean, outside maybe Black Label Pro, that's about it. In championship wrestling in Hollywood, Marquez has done a great job for sure.
Yes, I've really been impressed with what Prime Time and all that stuff has been doing lately. It's really up the production value. I've been really interested in that.
Yeah. Well, anyway, Jamie, I want to thank you for the time, man. Where can people go to find you, follow you, find updates about Prochella, all of those great things?
Well, right now you can just follow me on my channels. That's Instagram, which is just JAMIEIOVINE, or on Twitter, which is JAMIE_IOVINE. And I tweet about stuff about my business. I tweet about Championship Wrestling from Hollywood stuff, because now that I've become the interim GM of Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. So I'm on the show quite a bit now, so tune in. And I will be posting more Prochella announcements as I get them. Right now, I'm just focusing all the marketing and tweets and stuff towards this GCW show that's coming up on December 5th, and making sure people donate to make sure that these wrestlers have a good Christmas.